It has been. How long is I think it's been like since September.
It feels like 3 weeks. Maybe it's been a month, but we have both been quite busy.
Yes, we have. I've forgotten what I've done. You've done a few things.
I maybe also have forgotten what I've done and
Yeah.
where I've been.
I mean, last week was KubeCon for me.
Right? How was that?
It was good. Oh, I know. Oh, it was great. It was great.
Was it?
Because it was. I mean, Olama had a booth there, and
Right?
so many people. I mean, a lot of people were like, "Oh, what is Olama?" Some people came up to us because we were in the keynote. We didn't know we were going to be in the keynote, but we were in the keynote.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then some people a lot of people came up saying, I love Olama. I'm using it. We're using it inside our company. It's become a mission critical kind of thing. What you guys are
Wow.
doing is incredible. So that was awesome. That was awesome.
That's really awesome. So I'm also assuming that there might have been an announcement prior to the keynote on Linux support if you're at KubeCon. Is that correct? Did I miss that?
Um, we do have Linux.
Okay.
That was a while back.
Okay. See, it has been a minute.
Yeah. So
Was that
Linux, and so
DockerCon?
no, we had it before
Okay.
DockerCon.
Okay.
Oh, but we
Okay.
did do DockerCon, and I think that's
Right.
been another reason I was gone. It was
Right.
DockerCon, and I think the week before that was the AI conference in San Francisco at
Yeah.
UCSF. I think.
Mhm.
Um, I think last time we talked was before that.
It does it does feel like
I
it
think that
is.
was like beginning of October.
I'm sorry. I've also been traveling, took some vacation, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. So yeah,
yeah.
it's.
You did fun stuff, right?
I mean, a little bit. I also work once in a while.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
But yeah, did some travel. Obviously, I'm not my regular location. I apologize to our dear listeners. I had all two or three of them. The audio quality is not that great today, but I am in the office in New York this time, so the time's also a
Yeah.
little bit different for us. But yeah, it's been a whirlwind tour. I still haven't replaced my suitcase. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that old episode, but I'm still carrying around this Hayes suitcase, and it's got to go. It's on its last legs. Like two of the wheels don't really turn anymore, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I will say one thing, not to go too deep into the packing thing, but I have started using, instead of like folding it out this way, putting things on both sides and then trying to cram it
Hmm.
back together. It has like an opening on the side where I can use it like a bucket, and I've just
Hmm.
been doing that, and it's actually way easier just
Yeah.
to line stuff up and take off. Also, if anyone tries to get into your bag, like, during customs security, that kind of stuff, and they want to look in, it's easier just to open up one flap and say like, here
Right.
it is. It's
Right.
it's all laid out, so they don't have to go digging around because they get really confused by my camera bag. It,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
no end of confusion because there's different pockets and
Yeah.
entrances and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
Well,
it's
I
been
I
pretty good.
changed my luggage pretty recently.
Oh, did you? What'd you go for?
So for a long time, I've been using the like Victorinox or Swiss Army or
Right,
whatever.
right. I think that was
Um,
your recommendation. Yeah.
yeah, and but also the we have a Briggs and Riley like 22-inch roller, and
Right.
I've been using going back and forth between those depending on
Hmm.
which one was available if my wife was using one. But recently I did a while back now. It was a Kickstarter.
Yep.
Um, and it was for gravel,
Travel.
I think gravel travel or something like that. Um, they originally they did a blanket, which I backed, and I got
I saw
that.
that.
And
Yeah.
they did a larger version of the blanket recently, which I've also backed.
Okay.
Because it's actually it's like a shockingly good blanket for use on the plane because it's nice and it's thin, but it's
Yeah, I see
nice.
that.
It's substantial. And then the new one is a little bit bigger because I'm also a little bit bigger.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, but the gravel bag, it's like a large backpack, like a duff. I think it's called the duffel or
Yeah.
like
I'm
traveler
looking at
duffel
it.
or something like
Yep.
that. And it's a backpack that converts into a kind of just a single a shoulder strap. But that's what I've been using, and it's great. In fact, I've gotten down to having basically about a week's worth of clothing,
Yeah.
and then my regular backpack, my daily backpack, which is actually the one that I got from Kelsey Hightower's backpack that he didn't want to keep for Monotorama.
Okay,
when he was a speaker, and I got it.
that's
Uh,
amazing.
he said, "I don't want this backpack. Do you want it?" It's like, "Sure, I'll take it." And so I still use that, and I put that inside the gravel backpack, and so
Oh,
now I'm just one bag, one
wow.
backpack that I take to the airport, and then just before I get on the plane, I take my backpack out and I throw the gravel bag up top, and with all my clothes in it, even I mean, like a second pair of shoes, and
Right.
I mean, I can put all this stuff in it, and it is so light. Is probably with all the stuff in it is probably about the same weight as the Briggs and Riley suitcase
On its
without
own.
anything in it. Yeah,
Wow.
it is so incredible. It's like I with all my stuff in it, I sometimes take it off my bag. It's like I've forgotten something because it's so light. It's so weird.
You're missing that
And
like bulky Nikon camera or something like that.
yeah, yeah. So
Awesome.
that's why I've switched the gravel. It is. I mean, because one of the things I hate about so many bags is that they provide too much protection.
Right.
They've got well, the hard for luggage. It's these hard sides.
Hmm.
And it's heavy, and the wheels are heavy, the everything's heavy about it, and so many
Right.
camera bags that provide too much protection. I hate it. And so this is just very strong but very light, and I love it.
Really cool. I
Yeah,
I feel like everyone in Devrel has like a blog post about their travel or something. But this week as well, because we're doing a bit of a team summit,
yeah,
I've been asking people how they travel and what they're down to. And you've got there's the maximalist, sorry, kind of option where you're checking in a bag.
right,
You've got coats, you've got shoes, you've got multiple
yeah,
wardrobe changes, that kind of stuff. I'm kind of down to like a smaller bag and a backpack. My problem is, of course, that I bring camera gear with me,
yeah.
and I think I got to get away from that. I did and this is maybe getting a little out there, but I did pick up an iPhone 15 Pro
Oh,
Max,
nice.
and because they were basically sold out, I ended up getting the 1 TB version. So
Oh, okay.
in my mind, since I've now got a camera that can shoot RAW that is in my
Yeah,
pocket, perhaps I could use that a little bit more, and I have
yeah.
been in New York, and it's pretty impressive actually. The RAW
Wow,
files, you can do a lot with them. The
wow.
JPEG streaming, I'm still not a fan of that HDR kind of stuff that it
Yeah,
does, but it is very impressive. Like
wow.
taking, shots of New York, that kind of stuff, in Times
Yeah,
Square, even just sort of street photography, because people don't think you're
yeah,
taking anything. They don't care.
yeah.
They see your iPhone and it's like, wow. See, like, and listen, I'm not invading people's public space, flashing
Right,
lights in their face or anything doing
right.
street photography, but it is kind of nice, and the quality
Yeah,
is really good. And having an ultra
yeah.
wide as well as a bit of a telephoto, I'm super
Mhm.
impressed. And again, I wouldn't necessarily buy 1 TB, but because I do have it, I've been just taking raw files,
Yeah,
just shooting raw and trying to shoot a little bit less than usual.
that's
It's
amazing.
fun. It is,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I still haven't tried the video. I know there's like a pro res raw kind of thing, but I feel like I might need some sort of
So
storage external or
what
something.
camera app do you use on the iPhone?
Oh, this is well, I'm using the default one right now. One
Okay.
of the biggest issues I've got is that in manual settings, you only get, I think it's 24 megapixels in manual
Mm.
settings. So what I typically use is Halide, at least
Yep.
for. I'm sorry, I'm pulling up just to make sure. Yeah, it is Halide, and then for I guess it's Filmic Legacy at this point in time because I don't pay the subscription, but I had
Mhm.
purchased Filmic, so I use Filmic
Yeah.
Legacy for raw video stuff. And again, I'm not using the ProRes RAW, just a little bit under that, but yeah, the video quality is quite good for fire.
Obscura is the
Obscura?
main like camera app that I'm using.
Okay, let's check that out too. I do
Um,
find like the Halide interface
well, I have Halide as well.
takes some getting used to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's slightly different. It's got a lot of haptic stuff involved,
Yeah.
which is really nice. So it lets me know when things are in focus without necessarily having to look at the screen, which is pretty cool, especially
Right.
if you're just like taking snaps or what have you. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah,
props.
I think I had bought Filmic when it was like a one-time thing, but
Exactly.
like all those you still have to get the subscription now or and but then what, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Blackmagic released their iPhone app.
Have you used it?
Oh my god, it's amazing.
I have not.
It,
Okay, I have not.
there's no reason to use Filmic ever again.
Oh
It
wow.
is
Okay, that's
it is
engaging.
there's
Okay.
like from the first version, it blows away everything else.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Blackmagic, they're kind of like that, right? They just sort of just disrupt the industry every time they come out
Yeah.
with something.
Yeah. It's really incredible.
even just I think they were one of the first people to start bundling Resolve with their
Mhm.
cameras, for example, and this is
Mhm.
before anybody
Yeah.
used DaVinci Resolve, and
Yeah.
it's such a smart play.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good apps. I will definitely need to check it out. I
Yeah.
heard you can also use it as uh, like a monitor or something like that. Are you using it that way or
Mm. No, I'm
like
not.
okay, okay. I would like to try that out as well because I do have a
I ha
separate monitor right now, but yeah.
I have used it as the external camera for my MacBook, and
As
so
a
I have like a MagSafe, like, thing that sticks on there, and then it just kinda hangs on the back of the monitor
mm,
on the MacBook,
right.
and right in the right place, and so it looks like a pretty amazing camera.
Mm. Yeah, I think the quality, like right now, this is not
Yeah.
best lighting, so you can kind of tell, but the
Right.
quality of the webcam on the MacBook is not bad. But the
Yeah.
quality of the camera on the iPhone is
Mhm.
way better. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
I can totally see that being a game changer
Yeah.
too. Plus, it's more wide, which makes me look
Yeah.
thinner, which is nice.
Yeah, and then with the if using the iPhone camera, I mean, this is the 14 or 13 that I have. Um, I think it you can turn on the mode where it's actually zoomed in a lot, but then it follows you as you move, and so
Oh,
like what you get on their studio display, or I think,
right, right.
yeah, which that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I guess when I think about that, I think about like the DJI Osmo that just came out or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that. But if I've already got the device, that's way
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
yeah. I'm starting to use my phone more as like
Yeah.
a multi-tool, which is really interesting to me
Yeah.
because before I took live photos and stuff like that, but being able to consolidate my tools, I think is a big deal for me
Yeah.
because a lot of my bag is just it's gear, like multiple
Yeah.
cables, backup chargers, that kind of stuff. But if I can
Yeah.
get down to one bag, then I don't worry about losing
Mhm.
a bag and requiring
Yeah.
double of everything. So that'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
another thing to help you with that is the cables from, I think it's called InCharge,
Okay.
Square something. Um, and there's the small version that's like, I don't know, 3 inches long. Then I think the more useful one is the like 1 foot version.
Okay.
Um, and so it folds over and it's onto itself and like snaps together. So it's got like big magnets in there. But
Great.
then the ends are um one side is USB A and the other side USB C, but you
Okay.
pop off it, the USB A end pops off, but still stays attached, so it kind of
Yeah.
swivels. And underneath it's a USB C, and the USB C end on the other end pops off and is a lightning cable underneath that.
Oh,
And so it's 6 possible configurations, and
interesting.
it's really good. It will not provide it does with you data and power, but it's not a Thunderbolt. So it
Oh,
will
okay.
not work as a, like connecting to an external monitor if in a pinch,
Gotcha. That's still pretty handy
but
though.
still amazing. So I have a
That
couple
is
of
awesome.
those and a couple of the short ones. They're expensive.
Right.
They're like for a 1 foot cable, $30.
That's
Um,
really expensive. But
it's really
it sounds like
expensive,
it's at
but
least like 2 or
it's
3
6
cables,
cables.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, those are all I have to travel with is those two. I've got the two really short ones because those were what was available.
Yep.
And then one cable for my watch, and that's all the cables I bring.
Perfect.
Oh, and then the cable to charge my laptop.
And now, like, I just happen to have mine here, but I carry like a whole bag of cables. It's just
Yeah,
packed full of like all of the dongles and the cables. And
6
yeah, if I
cables
can
is all I
slim that
carry,
down, nice, nice. I
and
need to
really
slim
I
that down.
should be 4 cables.
That's
And then
fantastic.
one Anchor, the Anchor, I think 747 or 847 or something like that, with the power supply, which is 150 watts. It's small, much smaller than the Apple one, and it has 3 USB-C jacks and one USB-A jack.
Oh wow, that sounds
And
awesome.
that's all I carry. That's all the
Yeah.
power I need.
I love these chats, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, hopefully somebody gets some benefit out of this, but at least for me, thank you very much because, like, traveling a lot, the things that like, as a bit of a tech nerd, I think there's
Yeah.
just a specific type of stuff that you need, and unfortunately, it's everybody seems to go at this problem a different direction, basically. So some people have retractable cables, I'm sure you've
Yep.
seen those before,
Yep.
which I really detest.
Yeah.
I've went the whole just go to the Apple store and buy all the cables you
Yeah.
need route, which is very expensive, and then
Yep.
I've got a lot of cables. And then there's the people who just assume there's going to be cables in places they
Yeah.
go, which is maybe fine in the office, but
Yeah.
I'm already stressed out just thinking about that.
Yeah.
How I can't just arrive somewhere and use somebody else's cables. I
Right.
don't know. It's odd to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the excuse me. One of the thing I try to I'm okay with loaning people cables. If they need to, I make sure I track it and get it back. But then there's, I mean, you in your role, don't ever let Jeremy or Ilan. Ilan's not there anymore, but Jeremy or Ilan, they break stuff. You can't. Anytime you let that one of them use something, broken by the time you get it back.
This
They
is
just have to
fantastic
touch it.
advice.
They just touch it. Broken.
Just look at it wrong.
I have so many dongles that they are broken.
No way. That is amazing.
Mostly Ilan. He just touches
fair
it. He just touches it. I don't know what he does.
I love it. Yes, I will take the start and let him know.
Yes.
I've been told.
But actually, for another
Yep.
person to get inspiration from for packing light, Jason Yee.
Jason
I don't know
Yee,
how he
yeah,
does.
Who used to be kind of a nomad, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Always
he
got
did
the
have
smallest
a bag
bags.
recommendation. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think he's got a Timbuktu at this point in time, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's always fun to see how people again approach this problem, like the duffel bag, the
Yeah.
backpack, the rollers, that kind of stuff. I'm
Mhm.
definitely still backpack and roller kind of thing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I need to get away from it because
Yeah.
it's hard on the shoulders. It's hard on the arms.
Yeah.
Things are sore. I'm getting older.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that gravel bag is amazing.
So one place this came up, for example, was in Japan, and in Japan, I was with my mother-in-law who packs
Mm.
extremely light, and all she
Mm.
had with her, I swear, was like a medium-sized purse for the entire like 4-day trip that we had, and I thought that was like this is next level stuff. And
Wow.
apparently, what she does is like she just sort of mixes and matches outfits. So she does do a little bit of re-wearing, but it's
Yeah.
never like the same
Yeah.
2 things 2 days in a row kind of thing. And then just has a really minimal amount of toiletries basically, and doesn't have any tech stuff at all because she's sort of tech
Yeah.
agnostic or phobic or something. She's basically just left home. That is it.
I would say the right word
Amazing.
for that is normal.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but it was really interesting to look at. And when she saw our bags, my wife and I's, she thought like, This is just a lot of stuff. Well, what do you have in there?" And we said, "Well, there's
Yeah.
no jack changes of clothes." Of course, for us it was 10 days, so it's a little bit harder to pack for 10.
Yeah.
But we did end up doing just the backpack and roller thing for 10
Yeah.
days, and it worked out okay. We
Yeah.
ended up using like a laundry service once, basically,
Yep.
to hack around it. Yeah. But I feel like that's one of the things. And we saw like we were all over Japan. We went to
Yeah.
Shikoku and Hiroshima and back to Tokyo and Kyoto. It was awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I
Can't-
find
can't
I need to pack
recommend
for
it enough.
4 days, no matter what
Right.
length of trip. 4 days.
Right. Just 4 days, yeah. And underwear,
hopefully-
I assume you
Underwear-
you watch the underwear?
Yeah, I mean, underwear. I get I've used Ex Officio for a long time, and
Okay.
wash them in the sink, and they dry overnight, and they're great.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good hack right there. Okay.
I really should get something better than the t-shirts I wear. I mean, these t-shirts are from I think True Color, True Armor. I don't know, something like that.
Okay.
But I don't know if they wash in a sink well.
Right.
I know there are some shirts you can get that feel like normal shirts, normal t-shirts, but are actually easy wash, or maybe the merino wool type stuff, so it's less
Right.
smelly.
Right. I have been using, so I wear a lot of Lululemon kind of yoga
Hmm.
clothing just because it's really comfy.
Yeah.
And I've been using some of those shirts, which they're like oversized ultralight. So they're nice and roomy, which is great. They're super light, and you're right. I should actually be able to watch one of them in the sink. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll try that this trip. But I have bought like 5 of them basically, and they're
No.
all kind of the same black shirt. But
Yeah.
I'll just wear the same shirt and they're different shirts, but I'll wear the
Right.
same outfit
Yeah.
basically. And it's awesome. Don't have to
Are
think
you
about
an
it.
ABC pant fan?
ABC pant. I feel like I might be wearing them
The
actually.
Lululemon ABC, I don't know, there's like 5 different variations on it.
I'm literally
It's-
wearing them right now.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Are they as amazing as everybody says?
They are. They kind of look like slacks, so they can dress up pretty well. Like we had a
Yeah,
formal dinner, for example, so I had these with me. It's so much better than jeans too
yeah,
because they're thinner, they're breathable, they don't get as
really.
hot, but they're also a little bit warm when it's cold out. I just find jeans are possibly the
Yeah,
worst thing to bring with you. They're so
yeah,
bulky
yeah,
when you like fold them up or roll them up, and it just takes
yeah,
like half of a book bag just to get jeans in there. So I really like these. I should probably get an extra pair.
yeah.
Prior to this, I was using the Banana Republic Traveler pants, which are
Hmm,
basically they're jeggings for men. They're just
yeah.
like stretchy jeans,
Okay, yeah.
basically. And the problem with them, of course, is that they're made with plastic, and that's how they get
Uh,
stretchy. It's like nylon, and after a few
mm,
washes, they're not stretchy anymore. And the
uh,
jean material is not great on its own. And yeah, I got
mm.
off that train. Yeah. But I
Well,
do feel like yeah,
uh, uh, I, so I wear one set of pants. I mean,
right,
I have like two or three copies of them, but they're basically the
yeah,
same, with slightly like minimally different colors. Like it's a dark gray versus a dark blue versus there's
right.
something else that is in there, more of a darker gray. Um, but they are all the same. They're REI, convertible kind of cargo pants. That's all I've worn for, I don't know, years. And I always get the REIs. I always, and I mean, some people don't like cargo pants. I think they look awesome. Whatever. A flight attendant on Delta,
Yeah,
as I was walking on, she looked at me and said, Where'd you get those pants? I
there
was
you
like,
go.
what? Somebody actually sells things there.
Oh man,
Attractive?
no, you know what the problem is we're getting so old that things that used to be fashionable are now fashionable again. So I think the '90s are coming back, and
Yeah.
I think cargo pants in the '90s kind of go hand
I
in
think
hand.
they're
So
awesome.
that's
I think they're
that's gonna
awesome.
be it. Oh, look at that! We've got an
Look at
Olama
that.
question actually. Holy moly!
Oh my
Thanks,
gosh.
Beamer. But we'll see if we can get Matt to
Wow.
answer this.
Um,
Quantization methods.
Different quantization methods. Would love the Olama hot swap functionality without losing the speed that comes with G. Losing the
I actually
speed.
don't know
Well,
GGUF.
so GGUF is there are two formats that Llama CP. So okay, step back. Olama is this way of running AI models,
Right.
and we leverage a runner that another guy, a Bulgarian guy named Georgi something,
Okay.
GG is his
Oh,
initials.
sorry, Georgy Gurganov. I'm
Gurganov,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Go
he originally put out GGML, and he updated the format supposedly so that it'll be a new format, but it'll never have a breaking change again. It'll be great.
Oh,
We're
okay.
4 breaking changes into this new format, which is
Of
called
course.
GGUF. GGUF.
Okay.
Again, it's his initials UF,
Yep.
universal format, I think it is.
Yep.
With promises of maybe better
Unified format.
performance, unified format.
Mhm.
Okay. With better performance, although that hasn't really happened yet. It's still about the same as GGML.
Okay.
But so, but then it's the way that these models are able to run on regular consumer hardware is that we quantize. And quantization is, so these AI models
Mhm.
are collections of nodes,
Right.
and those nodes are connected via weights, and those weights are stored as
Right.
32-bit floating point numbers.
Okay.
And quantization is basically the idea of converting those 32-bit floating point numbers to 4-bit integers, which is
Ah,
like, sounds
interesting.
like magic. The
Right.
way it does it is it groups them into lots of blocks, and each of those blocks has maybe 30, 40, 50 numbers in it, and they're thrown into bins, one of 16
Ah,
bins. Um, and then uh, and so then it can say all these numbers are bin number 0, and this is bin number 1, all the way up to 15. And then
really
along
cool.
with that is a kind of a map of, okay, bin number 1 refers to floating point numbers between -1 and minus 0.7 or 0.888, is bin 0, and bin 1 is this, and bin 2 is that. So it stores this table for each one of these chunks of
Mhm.
numbers, and there might be thousands or tens of thousands of these blocks,
Right.
of these sections. Um, and then there's and it's a linear uh, uh, distribution. So
Okay.
it's, they're always the same value, down or up from 0 to 1, or 0 to 1 and 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 is the
They're also the
same
same distance.
distance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a K quantization where it looks at that in that block. It looks at where most of the values. They're not usually evenly distributed. There's
Okay.
usually a cluster, and so it zooms in on that cluster and puts, each of the blocks will be a variable amount of a variable size, and
Yeah.
then that table that says here's the map of everything, it becomes even more important. Um, so different quantization methods. I don't know of other quantization methods. I'm sure there are, but we support 2-bit. I don't think there's a 3-bit, but 4-bit, 5-bit, 6-bit, 7, I think, and 8, and then the K of all those 3, 4, 5, and so forth. So I don't know of other quantization methods, but maybe there are some, and we'll probably support them as they are added to Llama CPP, is the answer to the question.
There you go. That's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I've
There's
looked
a
here.
lot of good stuff in that head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And this is all news to me, honestly.
Yeah.
As an Llama user, I really don't understand what's under the hood.
Yeah.
Just putting out a model, do
It's
some
just like
stuff.
magic.
It kind of is. I hate
Yeah.
to say, like, I don't want to tell you your product is
Yeah.
good or anything like that, but yeah, it's pretty easy to use,
Yeah.
and I haven't had to like try different things, but I do understand where he's coming from. So if there's a way to change different types without necessarily losing speed or
Yeah.
perceived speed,
Yeah.
I think that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And the 4-bit quantization is
yeah, there we go.
um I should have said so GPTQ versus AWQ
AWQ.
versus GGUF. And so for now, we are sticking with Llama CPP as our main runner, and that's what supports GGUF. That said, when we switched over, so when Geordi switched over from doing GGML to GGUF, a lot of
Hmm.
other tools just swapped, said, okay, fine, GGML, you're dead to us. We're just GGUF. And for us, we thought, well, that's crazy. We got these models, GGML
Right,
models. We don't want to transfer everything over. So
right.
we basically going to run GGML in this old state and GGUF in the latest. And as changes come in, we're going to try to backport them over to the GGML version. But and so we've got these two different runners, and we had
Mhm.
to update Olama to be able to run these two different runners. And so
Right.
if a GGML comes in, use this older one. If a GGUF comes in, use the newer one.
Gotcha.
And so, but that means that, well, we can add a third thing or a fourth thing or a fifth
Right.
thing. And one of the newest things that we're looking at, somebody provided a PR just the other day,
Hmm.
it might have been yesterday, that allows for use of lava models. Some
I
other
love them.
multimodal
Awesome.
model. Basically, in his example, he was able to give it, here's this image, describe the image, and it
Yeah,
describes it
very
really
cool.
well.
Really? Sorry, yeah,
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 it
I
was
didn't.
like magic.
I had not that. This is a
Yeah.
massive. Okay, this
So
is awesome. For me, at least, when I look at sometimes photos, for example, I want to know like, hey, I like these photos. I like this series of photos.
right,
But kind of why? Why do I like it? Or
right.
if I've got a library of photos and I need to perhaps generate some descriptions for them. This is
Yep.
something I've been trying to do for a while, and it's really not that great, at least right
Yep.
now. So it's good to hear. I'll definitely try that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Well,
think he's when he says hot swap functionality, not really. I mean, when there's a different model that comes in, Llama 2 to Mistral to something else.
mhm,
Um, well, first off, we have the idea of model weights, and then there's within the model, our model, we have the weights and we have the prompts and the template and all that. And if
mhm,
you have a model and then you swap it out to another model, but it's actually using the same weights. So the source model is the same. It's just using a different template and prompt. We'll swap that out, and without having to unload the model weights, um, and for that to swap out from one model to the other model, it's it's almost not perceivable how quick it's so quick. But
Ah,
for if you're swapping out from Mistral to Llama 2, we have to
yep,
unload that model from memory and reload
right.
the new model into memory. With a 7B model, so a 7 billion parameter model, which is about
Mhm,
3.5 gigs, that's pretty quick.
right.
If you're dealing with a 70 billion model, like Llama 2 70 billion, and you're switching out to Falcon 180 billion, which really requires 192 gigs or roughly, you're gonna definitely see that difference. That
Wow.
time required to swap out memory. And so
Just
we
pull
don't
from
really
disk,
have hot
basically.
swap.
Mhm,
I mean, I guess we kind depends on what you mean by hot swap.
right.
There, I think the reason he asked that question is that there was a video, I want to say on Friday, that came out
Mhm,
by Matthew Berman, and
okay.
he demonstrated the idea of having two terminal prompts open, and he asked Llama 2 a question and lined up the same question in Mistral or two other models. Um,
Okay.
Pressed enter on both of the press enter on one, press enter in the next, and you could see that the first one it answered the question. As soon as it answered the question, it moved on to the second one and started answering that question. It looked like it was, I mean, that's the way it works, and it really does that. But
Yep,
there was a little bit of time where it needs to unload the model and reload the new model, and that's what's actually
right.
happening. That said, I think all the other tools out there, it's harder to swap out models, um, and you don't have because there are GUI applications. You don't have the option of running multiple GUIs, and so it's it looks like it's. I mean, and it feels like it definitely takes more work to swap out. We've
Right.
got something that's really easy to swap about, but if they could make their UI easier to work with, they potentially could be faster, like us.
That's very
But
cool.
it's just different way that we've tried to achieve this process. So I mean,
That's
it's
very,
I
very
think we're
interesting.
awesome, but it's not as it is pretty magical, but maybe not quite. I mean, there's
Not as
nothing.
magic as you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was described in a way that seemed like it was doing something more magical than it was. I mean, it's
Right.
still amazing, and we're still faster than a lot of other tools. But
But
yeah,
yeah, fair
yeah,
enough. Fair enough. I
I still
listen,
love it.
I feel like the offline kind of LM or LLM tools are people are actually starting to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
I'm happy now that people seem to be interested in retrieval augmented generation, which is like
Hmm.
to me it seems like an actual use case for
Yeah.
stuff. As well as we're starting to pay attention to things like prompt injection or security around
Yep.
the actual models, or perhaps PII or what have you that might be in there that may have been
Yep.
trained on when you're making your own, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Which I think we're sort of hitting maybe this is just one little bump, but we're hitting a bit of a maturity level, which is
Hmm.
nice. And then I'm sure there's others along the
Yeah.
way, but we're starting to think about what are these guardrails? What does this look like? Because
Right.
immediately when a lot of these tools came out, businesses were like, "No, you can't use this. Like,
Right. Yep.
absolutely not. This is like danger. AI is going to
Yeah.
take over the earth." And even
Yeah.
just the term AI as opposed to ML or LM
Yeah.
or LLM, yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like we're getting past that point now, and the conversation is actually talking more about utility
Yep.
instead of just knee-jerk reactions,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. Any thought on the executive order
Order,
that
I
Biden?
did not see it. I heard
Yeah.
of it. What's the TLDR?
Um. I mean, I haven't read it. I've heard a lot of other people who have read it talk about it, and
Hmm.
it feels a little bit like some really big companies gave the government some advice, and an executive order was created
Okay.
that partially protects those large companies at
Ah,
the
okay,
expense of smaller companies, but
okay.
doesn't protect them enough that the big companies really like it. So they would like more protection, and so they're kind of saying, "Oh, it's bad," but only because the protection that they gives against smaller against open source models is
Right.
not as good as what they were hoping for.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I just pulled it
Yeah.
up. So it's the safety AI safety executive order. This
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's it. What it yeah. It's like it's a big document. It's like a 100-page document.
I did notice it was quite
Yeah.
large. Yes,
Yeah.
I may want to
And
summarize
I mean
it.
it's good in that it provides like support for ensuring that the US has the right talent. And so what can we do to attract talent from other countries into to work on this stuff here?
Right.
And what can we do to for when roles start getting replaced by AI, which maybe some roles get replaced sooner, but most roles, I mean, most things are this stuff is pretty immature for now,
Right.
and it's going to be a while before jobs are actually replaced by AI. When that does happen, are there is there retraining that can happen for those people who lost those jobs? And I think
Gotcha.
that's great. Um, there's also like some people are like, oh well, it's not providing enough protection because the AI is going to take over the world. They're not. Come on, we're decades away from that. We
It
got
does
plenty
feel
of
like
time
it.
to figure
Yeah,
that
it does
stuff
feel
out.
like it. Exactly.
This is not Skynet. We're not going to see Terminators showing up.
Yeah, I think when tools like AutoGPT, for example, were released, people started to get a little bit more up in arms,
Yeah.
where you could tag things into sort of a pipeline, like
Hmm.
do this and then
Yep.
do this and then filter it
Right.
through some other thing and then I don't know, purchase a sneaker on the internet.
Yeah.
Like you could get pretty far with it, but
Yeah.
that those ones I think are maybe where people are more
Sure.
alarmist than usual.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole, I guess, Actors Guild, Screen Actors Guild, and talking about like
Mm.
taking your virtual likeness and
Right.
possibly developing content with that. I think they've come to an agreement at this point as of last week, but that took some time as well. Just talking
Yeah.
about what that would look like. Like, are
Yeah.
you going to be paid a pittance for your license because
Yeah.
we already have all the film and we can
Right.
train it on it and do it anyway? Or perhaps we need to write a new contract or what have you.
Yeah.
So it seems like they've come to an amicable agreement, so that's
Mm.
good. Especially for a city like Vancouver that relies, unfortunately, on the
Mm-hmm.
film
Yeah.
industry quite a bit,
Right.
especially Netflix productions, that kind of stuff. So,
Right.
yeah, very, very interesting. Again, I
Yeah.
feel like we're getting to a certain maturity level, a bit of a hump,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Other than
Um,
that, what else is up? You sent me this state of AI report.
I
It's
did.
quite
I
long.
did.
Is there anything in here that have you read this?
I started to look through it,
Okay,
but I haven't. I feel like I mean just like the first question. I looked at the first question and people are thinking yes. 51% of people are. I don't know who the people are.
right,
1,500 tech people.
right,
So software engineers, engineering and business leaders, execs, product folks, designers, and more.
right.
Ask them what do they think of AI, and like 51% think, oh, this stuff is overrated. No, it's I think it's being. I mean, I don't know. I think it's. I mean, obviously, I'm working at a group that on a project that is trying to make this stuff really easy.
Right.
Um, I don't know. I feel like it has a chance of becoming so much bigger than it is. Um, but it's not something to be scared of for a while. For a long while. What do you
I
think?
feel like there's yeah, I feel like there's a bit of overhype, but there's I think there's more education than it
Yeah,
is people in the know, and I'm listen, people in our industry as well are just as guilty as people who aren't,
sure.
and I feel like in some cases it's also fairly rated. So there is a lot of hype around things like for me at least when I'm generating like test cases or things like that,
Hmm.
I find there's a lot of utility. We're brainstorming sessions, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I do feel like there's a fair rating there on or offline. You know, if you're using API or Olama or what have you, I do
Hmm.
feel like there's utility there. What I feel, at least from different companies, and listen, this my opinions don't represent Datadog or anybody else I've ever worked with before, but when you tack on a tool to yours that
Hmm.
is orthogonal, perhaps is a word, but it feels like it's a not a cash grab, but it's like, hey, there's hype
Mm.
around something. Let's
Right.
bolt this on, kind of thing. I think where I'd like to see this is being able to use data that you've already got. And I've talked about Notion before, but I find the way that they're implementing this at least
Mm,
improves the application, and I'd like to see more apps doing
right.
this instead of coming
Yeah,
with some bot assistant or something like that that
yeah,
really doesn't help me at all.
yeah. Yeah, it's like I just got the email for Notion today about
Good.
their, now finally they're able to, like you can ask questions of your whole workspace, and
Yes.
if all the answer is in there, it'll give, and it's being really a great thing for people onboarding to the company. It's
It's like
like,
an easy to use
ah,
RAG. It's
yes,
right
this
there.
is fantastic. A great
Yeah.
application.
Yeah, and Notion, of course, in their interest, kinda charges you by block, so it's not even the
Mm,
documentation, it's like a segment of the document. I
mm,
feel like it fits their business model as well.
yeah,
I will say early on, they weren't really charging for AI runs, so you could
yeah,
go you go wild, like, I've made
yeah.
71-page documents where,
Oh,
like,
really?
you just sitting there as I'm watching TV, just keep asking it questions. Because with an iPad, for example, you can dictate to it,
Ah, yeah,
and if you're so you can actually just hit the microphone and talk as
right.
you're doing something, and then, what would that look like? And, like, what would a
Yeah,
sample repo look like? And give me a sample PR, and I was
yeah,
basically going through a software development workflow. Soup to nuts, like, this whole thing,
yeah.
what would a CI/CD pipeline look like? Give it to me in Terraform, that kind of stuff. It felt to me like Notion was way ahead of the curve for a lot of people,
Mhm.
and I like that they're staying there. I'm biased. I love this product,
Yeah,
unfortunately, just for organization. But I think tools like perhaps Evernote or other note-taking tools are probably watching them, trying to figure
yeah.
out where they need to go next and what that looks like. Because this
Evernote?
market
Is
is
Evernote still a thing?
right. Yeah,
Does
it's still a
people still
thing.
use Evernote?
I think some people are still stuck using Evernote. I'm just looking it up just to make sure. Yeah, and the first suggested thing actually when I typed in Evernote was Evernote AI. So let's see,
Really?
AI note cleanup. Oh, look, see, they
Oh,
do have stuff.
okay.
Yeah, which I kind of thought. And as someone who uses Descript quite a bit, as an
Yeah,
example, there's a lot of Descript functionality now in Premiere, which
yeah,
is it kind of muddies the waters as well
yeah,
because that's there's a key functionality that created a whole product
right.
that Premiere is now again gobbling up, and
Yeah,
it's hard for me to justify paying for two tools when one of
yeah,
them does the job.
yeah,
And I'm not a fan of Premiere, but I mean I do have it. I could use
yeah,
it. It's part of the creative suite or what have you. So
yeah,
anyway, I think where I'm at is that I want to see more utility and less
yeah,
novelty, perhaps.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the next questions is about, is AI actually changing how developers learn and work? And it's saying 57.6% of respondents have been say they've been using Stack Overflow less since 2022.
that I've heard
Absolutely.
that I've heard that from a lot of people actually.
I
And
don't touch
yeah,
it. There's no reason to there's no reason to search for what is usually a set of bad answers on Stack Overflow,
yeah,
because, okay, the first answer you get from an AI solution is often not right, but you're gonna
right.
come to the good answer
Faster.
quicker than searching through all the garbage that's in Stack Overflow. So
And
absolutely.
and sometimes that's prompting too. So like in the prompt,
Yeah,
you can say like
yeah,
making sure this is factual.
yeah,
Please give me
yeah,
a blah 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 blah. Which I
yeah,
find, and maybe that's more again maturity is like
yep,
using the prompting. But 10% of people say they're not using it at all any longer,
yeah,
or 10.3%,
yeah.
I guess. But
I'm
that
amazed that that number is so low.
right, that's exactly where I was going with
Yeah,
this. I'm surprised it's not the rest of that percentage,
yeah,
like 40% kind of thing. And then I wonder again, is this education? Do people understand why they might not
yep,
need to use Stack Overflow or what that looks like?
yeah.
And then
And
yeah, they're
and
talking
I
about
wonder,
Copilot and ChatGPT. Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
I wonder if this number would be where it is if Copilot did not exist, or Tab9 or any of the other
Right,
folks that do that.
right.
If it were just using the ChatGPT, website, I don't
Mhm.
know if that would.
It's
It's
not good.
really Copilot. I mean, Copilot just
Yes. It's a game
it's
changer.
amazing. It's
I
amazing.
is it called Copilot X, or is that the Office one?
So there's GitHub Copilot is the product from Microsoft slash GitHub.
Yeah, Copilot does look like another version of Copilot, but on the GitHub side, actually, as
Right.
opposed to VS
Yeah.
Code, which is what I think we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
And
Very,
so,
very interesting.
but that runs in VS Code, GitHub
Right,
Copilot,
right.
and then there are several variations on that. So Copilot is amazing, but it will not work if you're offline, which
Oh,
I've
right.
run into that problem with if I'm on the
When you're on
ferry,
the plane. Yeah.
on the plane, I'm on the, Delta says, oh, we're changed all our plans, except usually the plane I'm on is not converted over. It's amazing how that works. But if you're offline, then there's a branch of Kodi, which is a plugin from Sourcegraph that the CEO made. And then there's also another one called
Cool.
Continue Dev, and there's another one that's really good. But they all use Ollama as their they can use Ollama as their backend tool. God, what's the other one I started using? There's another great one
as well. Very, very good.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, maybe I want to ask about fictional business, for example.
Right,
I
sure.
don't necessarily want to be
Yeah.
training things, which is
Yeah.
something I do a lot. Like, come up with a novel business idea for X.
Right. Right.
It's like surprising, actually.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, these are novels. Some of these might not work. It's like not.
Yeah,
feasible, but cool.
when I did a talk at like a lightning talk at 8VC, which is a venture capital firm in San Francisco. In it, I was using Ollama as for, what was my example? So one of my examples that I put out was the idea of mentors, and so you could have a list of mentors that you can ask a question against, and and the mentor was really just based on a prompt, and that prompt is, here's a short bio. I used I used Llama 2 70 billion parameter to generate these bios. It says, give me a bio of X person, and give me a list of a description of all the kind of verbal tics and mannerisms of the person. That way, when you see it written out, it sounds like what you remember them saying.
Right.
And sometimes I had to like tweak it and add a few extra words in there or a few extra things that I noticed. But so I have, I mean, I wouldn't say these are mentors, but it was fun to add like Owen Wilson. So there's all sorts of crazy things that he says. There's Donald Trump.
I'm sure he could teach you how to do. Yeah, maybe Trump's not
crazy things he says, or Yoda, or I think I have Martha Stewart. I have Gary Vee. I have all these people, and all their catchphrases that they use. You're gonna crush it, says Gary Vee all the time. And so you ask a question, and it goes to these. It randomly chooses three of these mentors a question, and it responds with an answer. And so what I did in this presentation was, okay, somebody give me a noun, an object, something that you can hold. And somebody said a soap. Okay, great. Give me a verb. Make, create. Okay, great. Give me an animal or a living thing. And it said dogs. Okay, great. So we're going to try to create a business that creates soap for dogs. And I asked my mentors, what do you think of this idea? And they were like, oh, Martha Stewart and Owen Wilson and Gary Vee answered, and okay, that's not exciting enough. Eventually, Donald Trump answered.
Of course, yeah.
The whole audience like laughed. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. So
I can't imagine the advice.
So actually, that's on the in the.
I unironically used to watch The Apprentice, right? So I kind of know.
Oh yeah. In the Ollama repo on GitHub, one of the examples is the mentors thing. So it's there.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. So listen, we talked about a lot of stuff that you kind of been checking out or using.
Yeah.
Is there anything new like on your desk or anything that you wanted to
there is something new on my desk. Okay. It is unfortunately not as wonderful as I'd hoped it would be.
Oh, that sucks. What is it? I think I know what it is actually. Yeah.
So about 3 weeks ago, I think I saw what's the guy's name? Senpai Gaming. He's done a whole bunch of like free music that's on Spotify. That's kind of a revenue stream for him. God, what's his name? Harris Heller, I think is the guy's name. He had released. He got a video of this new teleprompter from Elgato. Now Elgato
market here. Yeah.
Elgato, I have to be a fanboy of Elgato because right here, this mic arm that this is standing on is an Elgato mic arm. This mic arm over here is also, well, you can't quite see the arm, but that's also an Elgato. These key lights
Right.
are Elgato. This Stream Deck and that Stream
Stream
Deck
Deck.
over there
Yeah.
are Elgato. I'm sure I've got other Elgato things. So there's a green screen right here that comes down, and that's Elgato. So I have bought into Elgato, and I think everything they've done is great. And then they came out with this teleprompter, and it's trash. It's
Can we just blame
awful.
Corsair? I had to look it up because I'd forgotten who bought them, but like, it's
Well, I
how's
think-
the build quality? It's my first question because Corsair's build quality hasn't been great.
It's terrible. It feels like cheap plastic. It flexes a little bit because it's cheap plastic. It is amazing that they've got this the glass that they use is really good. And the monitor, so it's got a built-in monitor, and it's a really good quality monitor. It's a bright monitor. It's a lot better than I've got a teleprompter actually on that I'm not using. But it's better than that, which is a Lilliput or Lilliput,
Yep.
9-inch monitor or 10-inch monitor. It's better quality than that monitor and better quality than, I think the glass is better quality than this pad prompter that I've been using for 15 years. But the build quality is just so flimsy and it doesn't collapse. So it's this fixed, thing. And so if you try to put it in a suitcase, it will break. It will definitely break.
And does it come with like a hard case or anything like that you can use?
It comes with a cardboard box and like the packing material, but that's it. There's no case for it. So it is very disappointing. It's definitely going back. I already got the return started.
That's too bad.
And
so I had high hopes.
Yeah,
because I as well also really like Elgato.
I think it does. For a long time, I've been on the fence with getting a really good teleprompter from ICANN. And these things are, I mean, they're bigger. I think the ICANN is like a 17-inch or 18-inch or 19-inch monitor. And it's you're looking at spending $2,500 on that. But I'd say getting the Elgato teleprompter has kind of pushed me over the edge. It's like, okay, this seeing what Elgato produced for $300, I say the ICANN for $2,500 is a much better use of money.
Interesting, like it's an investment kind of
it's
thing.
Just
I feel like a teleprompter you're going to use.
I mean, this one that I paid, I don't know, I paid must have been $400. I've used it for 10 years, 15 years more. I think I bought it before I moved to Amsterdam, so it's been a long time, 20 years. So I mean, these things should last a long time. This Elgato thing is not going to last a long time.
That's too bad.
Yeah, bummer.
I get
Did you get anything
to watch that will make you happy?
Oh yeah.
So on Netflix, I realize that anime is kind of, it feels weird to watch anime on Netflix. This is not cringy at all. It's called Pluto, and which probably sounds weird to you, but it's actually Astro Boy essentially. So it's an Astro Boy full-length feature film, and you don't get that right away. It takes a couple episodes for you to understand what's happening. But it's kind of like a murder mystery TV series. Sorry, it's not a movie; it's a TV series, and it's quite good. So the author is Osamu Tezuka, who wrote Astro Boy, and this was sort of written with him being involved essentially. But it's like a side story, and it's really really good.
Wow.
I can't recommend it enough. It's not really like a tearjerker or anything like that, but there are emotional things in it, and Astro Boy is kind of it's an allegory, I believe, for possibly nuclear power or like weapons of destruction or what have you.
Right.
And the movie does kind of skirt that line. Or sorry, the series does skirt that line as well. But when you come at it with that understanding and then sort of the emotions building up and the scientists and all that stuff going on, I actually thought it was really good. And it's not very long. So I think it's like 8 episodes perhaps. So it's a pretty easy watch. Each episode's maybe 35, 40 minutes kind of thing. So it's pretty easy to get through. I think I watched it all in like 2 days. Just binged it, unfortunately. But it was really, really good.
Cool. All I know about Astro Boy is the song. The song by the Buggles.
Okay.
Do you know the Buggles?
I do. This is
the Video Killed the Radio Star. and
Yeah.
Elstree and
Yeah.
my
I
boy
think
whatever.
when I was younger, I watched Astro Boy at like 4 AM or 5
Oh yeah,
AM on the weekends. That's the only time it would air, so I'd wake up to
wow,
watch it. So perhaps I just really like Astro Boy
yeah,
or Atom as they say. So in the series they say Atom instead of Astro Boy, but
oh, okay.
it's very much Astro Boy.
Well,
I mean, it's pretty obvious.
yeah, I'm so I will next time I get Netflix turned on again because we've turned it off. But I will watch this. I just we also had turned off HBO, but I was in a
Okay,
hotel for
right.
KuCon and had HBO. It was a terrible way to access HBO. It was just so annoying at the it was the Fairmont in Chicago, which is
Right.
okay hotel.
Yeah.
But it had HBO, so I watched. I finally got to watch the first 4 or 5 episodes of Last of Us.
Oh.
Oh my god,
I believe I've
it's
recommended this before.
fantastic!
It is so good.
And
I've
then
forgotten
then
that guy's name, but he's such a good actor.
Pedro
He's amazing.
Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, yeah, he's
Yeah.
amazing in that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it
so
was
good.
fantastic. And then on Delta, they had it, and so
Wait, yeah, yeah. Okay, did you
it was a
finish it? Okay,
4-hour flight from Chicago to Seattle, and I watched the last few episodes. It was like
okay, that's good.
I watched everything. It was amazing.
Oh,
Yeah, so that I finished, and then I just 2 nights ago I started watching on Prime um Three Body.
oh,
It's
yeah,
really fantastic.
yeah. This is one of those things where I want to read the book, and I might even own the book, but it is a
It's a hard
very
book to read.
long book, and yeah, I've
It's a
heard it's very
very
difficult to
hard book
read.
to read. As a person who grew up speaking English language and reading stories that work in Western cultures, it's a
Right.
very hard book to understand, to read. I mean, I read it. It took a while. I wouldn't mind
And
reading it again because I
the
didn't
author
quite
is
get it all.
Chinese, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And then
I guess it might
the
depend on the quality of the
translator
translation. Yeah.
the translator is also really a great author on his own. He's got his
Okay.
whole set of stories. I think he's from he lives in I think Cambridge, Massachusetts, and so the translator's got is a really good science fiction author on his own,
Awesome.
and so that's great. But it was definitely hard to read.
I look forward to it. I realize
The series
it's
is
kind of an epic, but
fantastic. Yeah.
awesome, awesome. All right. Well,
Well, hey,
this was
you know
great.
what?
Thank
I
you
gotta
very
go.
much.
You know why?
Yeah, me too, actually. I
Well,
why? What's
Well,
going on?
my reason is that
Are you getting kicked out?
our architect and builder are
Ooh,
coming by for our first meeting because we're moving ahead on this extension.
woo,
We're moving up.
good. All right, sir. Good luck to you.
All right. I'll find that end stream button. There we go.